evening, everybody. Thank you for showing up. I'd like to thank Startup York, Community Build, Heather, and I'd also like to thank you guys for showing up. It's amazing. My name's Ainsworth, and how did I start this venture? Well, once I finished school, I went to Ryerson, I went to the Academy of Design, and upon completion of that, I started Crue TV. Crue TV was an online production company, and we started filming all the positive stories from disadvantaged neighborhoods. So we're filming businesses, individuals, all the positive things that they're doing, because at that time, 06, 07, it was like the year of the gun. There's a lot of violence, there's a lot of things happening. So at that time, we wanted to put a positive spin on what was happening in the community. And we kept filming, going into neighborhoods, doing a lot of films. And a lot of the youth in those neighborhoods at that time was asking, hey, how can I get involved in this? How can I get involved in this? And at that time, I know I spent $28,000 for 18 months upon completion of Ryerson to learn at the Academy of Design, to learn all this stuff. And it was going real cool and everything, but at that point, it was just hitting me more. It was like, kids were like, hey, how can I do this? How can I do this? And you know, sitting down with some of the kids, they had like records, criminal records. They had some type of barrier to employment. And for me, I'm more of like myself, I'm a go-getter. So with all these kids asking these questions and me being a go-getter, and it was just more like, how can they do this? How can I do this? How can we spin Crue TV to help more of these youth? Because every time they'd ask, I'd feel more compassionate about their case and their stories. So in 2009, upon completion, so what was happening is we kept filming all these youth and filming all the programs we were doing. And we had our own style of actually filming. What we're doing then, Vice is doing now. And we were just a small media. And my thing was I always wanted to get into the media. I wanted to start a broadcast company. I wanted to start a diverse broadcast company because it wasn't really there. Moses Zeimer was really my hero at that time. So I liked the way he started City TV and the way things were running and the way things were going, this small little TV station. So I wanted to replicate that. And then I guess in Canada, BET came, so there was Bob Johnson now, so there's another dude. I was like, wow, it's getting easier now. So at the end of the day, started Crue TV, started filming. Kids were loving it. And the popularity was growing of Crue TV, demand was there. But then digital media became very, creative media started to actually gain traction. And so in 2008, it was really popular. YouTube came in, everybody was getting more adjusted to YouTube, what it was doing. And so at that time, but still talking to the kids who wanted to go to these schools and learn this stuff, it was still expensive. So at that time, while digital media was getting on the rise, so was the cost for learning. So in 2009, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna make this a nonprofit. It was a nonprofit based on the fact that I still wanted to be a profit company. So I thought, let's create a nonprofit so that we can actually have the government provide us with the tools and so that we can use those tools and help the youth. And in 2009, I registered Crue TV. And from there, I started to like think about how can I create workshops that could give them employment skills and that could actually give them a chance to get jobs just to knock off some of the barriers that was happening with some of these kids. So, if they have a criminal record or they can't retain all the attention, all the education they're getting in school, and some of them just couldn't understand school, just couldn't, get into school because they're from neighborhoods with different environment, different social structures, individuals that live there. And so at that time, like I said, I started Crue TV in 2009. I approached a major community organization, which was Tropicana, and I said to them, at that time, they were actually, they were in charge of all the 13 priority neighborhoods. And at that time, I said to them, I have this great digital media. It was really new because they didn't even understand it. They didn't even have the phones yet that could actually do what they're trying to do now. So they were still with the flip phones and whatever. So the executive director was like, okay, this sounds really interesting. So I was like, okay. She goes, okay, once you come in, put something together for a representative from all the 13 priorities. And this is in Toronto. So I said, sure, and I did it. And we did the presentation. They were like, great. They were all cheering and everything. So they gave us a grant, and then I delivered the first workshop at Ryerson. And it was a success. It went off really great. And so after that, I was like, okay, what do I do next? How do I survive? Is it just going to be only grants? Like how, I mean, I had all these skills, but I wanted to really concentrate on the nonprofit world and see where I can go with that. So they gave us the grant, and then after that, just being around, hanging around, all the, just trying to get things going. And they gave us the grant, everything went well. And then upon completion of that grant, I started to think, how can I do this? And then about 6 months later, Tropicana actually called me and said they're actually doing this thing called Protect Media with the city of Toronto. And they're all going to be located, and they're going to put digital media centers in different neighborhoods, all 13 priority neighborhoods. And I'm like, this is interesting. So my thing was, it's great to put all these digital media centers around, but they won't be helpful unless you have the right staff. It can't be a hobby, because if it's a hobby, kids are going to come in and they're going to have better phones. If the computers are not at the high end, then they're not going to do it. They're just going to come in, look, and say, this is another computer room. Let's just get out of here. We can just play with our phones. So technology was changing and all of that. And so based on me really wanting to do something for the youth, Tropicana called me and said, hey, would you like to lead this program? So in leading this program, it was in the Toronto Public Library at Kennedy and Eglinton. While being in Toronto Public Library, they gave me access. So by then, they had some used computers. So I was like, nah, this can't work. This can't help the youth, because I'm coming from that background of actually doing post-production, doing film. And then here was these Mickey Mouse equipment in the library. And then they wanted all these kids to use it. And it said digital video, website design. And I'm like, you can't do website designs. You can't do video production on computers that are being donated. You could do Word, yeah, you could do Excel, but you can't do digital production on these type of equipment. So then I decided to just write a grant, start getting into the grant writing. Wrote a grant with TELUS. TELUS said, yes, great. Gave us like $25,000. And then I just bought all Macs, all brand new PCs. And then we started delivering some workshops, digital media workshops. We didn't really have much instructors yet. So we just had myself, and I had another student that was with me. So I was leading this program, and at the time, when you're working for a nonprofit or a nonprofit organization is trusting your projects, they're more about money. And so they wrote this contract that says at any time we could cancel this program. I'm like, cancel this program at any time? Because that was the contract that they gave us. And I was like, okay, there has to be some sustainability. Because I'm in this field, I know there's editors. I know like production houses had a bunch of editors, a bunch of guys that interns. So I'm like, I got to duplicate what they were doing and actually make it into a program here. So while at the library, we started piloting this program in 2012, actually calling in businesses and saying, hey, we did a digital video production workshop, includes editing, camera work, some social media, marketing, and we filmed the whole thing. So every one of our programs, we're filming as we did the program. So we're actually getting traction now, and we had these kids come in. They loved the program, but I was like, okay, we need to get jobs. And because I was in the industry, a lot of guys would call me and say, hey, do you have editors? Do you have editors? And I'm like, okay, here's a way out. So what I did was I started teaching these kids how to edit, and I'm like, okay, just keep editing, provide the access to have 24 hours, well, not 24 hours, but had a lot of access every day on the computers to actually practice and get better at what they did. So they kept practicing, and I kept giving them jobs, feeding them jobs, and then I'm like, okay, this is it, this is it. So now I took a step back and I said, okay, I could do this more. So what Tropicana did was they allowed me to develop Crue TV, and I used everything that they were putting in front of me as a pilot. So it was like, okay, so we're doing 2,000, 3,000 kids are coming through our programs. This is at the library. So the library, a lot of people come through. So the plan with the library was you got to get a library card. Once you have a library card, you could actually come in our studio and actually work. So everybody started coming in, seniors, adults, everyone wanted to learn. So we created workshops for the seniors. We had workshops for the youth. We had workshops for the adults. And we're just teaching all digital media, so everybody's getting more inclined. And, fast forward 4 years, 2016, we've been piloting a lot of projects. 2015, up until then, we've done 17,000 people have actually come through the workshops that I've been delivering. And with these high costs and just hearing how the employment, as you know, if you're out of work, it's a big strain, and there's a lot of youth out of work. So at that time, 2015, 2014, Civic Action created created something in terms of getting youth employed. So their plan was they got to put more skills, more hands-on skills for youth so that they can have the hands-on skills and so that they can eliminate the barriers to employment. So some of those barriers to employment was, mental illness, they're out of work, they got no place to live. Another barrier would be financial to these programs. In order to learn these programs, very expensive. So, like if you're trying to even go to Seneca, nothing wrong with going to Seneca, nothing wrong with going to any of these schools, don't get me wrong, but they're really expensive for those who have barriers, right? And a lot of youth, even for the parents, you're spending $30,000. So the government came up with this great idea. They're going to have relief for OSAP if you're making under $50,000 as a family, which is great. It's amazing, but you have a debt coming out of school. And then while you go to school, you're going to school for 3-4 years. So again, there's still going to be a barrier for those who don't really want to go to school that long. So we thought about it. Let's make our program short-term. Let's make it affordable. And let's add some components to it. Let's get the businesses to have access to these youth. Because businesses now don't know how to get into the digital atmosphere, but they'd like to get into this atmosphere. So just let me slow down here a bit. So I just want to tell you where we got to. So this is Crue TV right now. So this is 4 years later. I know I'm just jumping ahead. I might be a little bit nervous, but I might not be. But just bear with me. So we got here now. This is Crue TV. So our motto is learn, create, earn, and we follow that motto. So it's hands-on learning for sure, and we build your professional experience. And so what we do basically, actually there is something missing here. Okay, here we go. So we start with the problem. So what our problems was youth was facing barriers to employment. And like I said, we have 83,000 youth that are not in education, employment, or training. And they're just around. And that strains the resources of your economy. And each youth that was not working on the economy, it's $1 million to the economy for a youth that's not working. I'm sure you guys are all taxpayers out there, but there is a lot of youth that are not working, and it's a strain on the economy. So where are these youth? Where are they going to get the jobs? So what we decided to do is access businesses. So here's a problem that businesses were having. They had no access to this pool of untapped talent. So imagine you have 83,000 youth hanging around, and you're a business, and you want to get these youth to do something for you. Yes, they have these employment programs, but I thought these employment programs were great, but they're just sending these youth to retail, factory. So these youth are going to have a dead-end jobs. Doesn't matter how you spin it, it's still going to be a strain on the economy. So I was like, no, there has to be digital media. So digital media is going to be, the hottest industry in 3 years, based on OCAD, based on the universities, and based on the Civic Action, Toronto. So based on that, we decided businesses don't have access to these knowledge. They don't know the talent. They don't know the cost. And they don't have the time to actually do these things. If they want a production, they don't know who to go to. If they see it on TV, they'll be like, man, that's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So then, again, that's a barrier for the businesses to get access to these youth. And with that, so they have these ideal solutions. Yes, we have the schools, which is amazing. And yes, we have the Ontario budget. And like I said before, you're still going to be in debt as a student. So a student coming out of school is definitely going to be in debt. Not a good option. So here comes this amazing idea, Crue TV. So with Crue TV, this is what we decided to do. We decided to give them skill training for the youth. So that involves video, graphics, or web. And then with that skill training, we give them some apprenticeship, which is employment. So with that, they get their hands-on skill training, and they're completing projects for businesses. These businesses will be asking these youth to complete production services. Can you do marketing for us? Can you do our social media? Can you do our video production? And in the end, it's a social enterprise revenues goes back into Crue TV and allows us to keep doing what we're doing and allows us to have the youth to actually feel better for themselves. Because you know what it's like to be working. Now your self-esteem goes up. Now these kids are walking more straight up. Now they have a way to actually benefit the economy and the community that they're a part of. So for us, what we're trying to do as Crue TV is provide access to innovative hands-on skill training to create a pipeline for youth, for careers in Ontario's digital sector, for youth facing barriers to employment, right? And so based on all of that, this is what we have done so far. In the 4 years that we've got going, we've participants served 17,000, and that's a lot of people just coming through the library and all the programs we're part of. These are partners that started out with us: Tropicana, City of Toronto, YMCA, and Toronto Public Library. And then right now, our current partners, since we've grown and just being in the industry a lot, we have Clever Society, just a smart bunch of youth. We have Trailblazers, a great bunch of guys. They're not here today, but they usually work with me in Crue TV. Then we have X4 Drones. That's an amazing company. I guess they create drones. We have Onyx, GC Solutions Network, and then we have Tropicana, and we just partnered with 360 Kids from the York region. And then we have Iron Defense, which does a lot of IT security. They come in and they teach IT security to the youth. And so who benefits? Well, youth, they benefit through the skill training projects. And through our creation, community have access to our studio. Anyone could come into the studio, learn programs, see what's on the workshops, and they could actually better themselves. And then we have businesses that we produce the production services for, or independents that want to come in and say they need a video production. We could actually do that for them. And then here's the beneficial: business, community, and the youth. They all benefit from what we do. And our future visions of Crue TV. One of our visions for Crue TV is to have access in every region, so that there's a Crue TV that you could have in every region, and one in York, one in Scarborough, Peel, and then we could have Ajax in that area, so that you could have access to Crue TV, learn all these things, and better yourself as a society, and better yourselves as youth. So yeah, that's how I got into this. This is Crue TV. This is my passion. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm very passionate about Crue TV because I'm very passionate about the community. I'm one of those guys that came through early, that I had a criminal record. But the only difference between me is I was still going to school. But outside of school, once I graduated, I realized people were focusing more on that negativity as opposed to what I can do. So while being in the studios, I just kept creating work, designing work, shooting. So I had a portfolio of a lot of stuff, so they could not say, well, can you do this? They could see all my portfolio, they could see the work, and they could see the passion. So I tell the youth that don't let the fact that you might have a barrier hold you back. What you need to do is look at ways that you can get around that barrier. So digital media is one of those aspects that could get you around those barriers easy because you're using your hands. And so coming out of our program and coming out of Ryerson, yes, you're coming out of Ryerson, you got the credentials just from the school alone. But coming out of our program, you're going to basically have the skill set. You're going to basically have the fact that you worked with someone already and that you actually did a project for a business. So you're going to have the hands-on skill, you're going to have the training, and then it's up to the employer to look at you and say, hey, you're coming out of Ryerson, great, you got great potential, but you've actually done the work before coming out of Crue TV, and we use industry standard professionals. So if you have a skill set and you'd like to deliver some type of workshop, we'll hire you and say, hey, whatever that workshop is, please deliver it, because those youth will benefit from whatever knowledge that you have and you want to share. So it's not always that, you got to always have the best or whatever. There's always little things that you can share that will benefit the youth, and that's what we try to do with Crue TV. Make sure that everybody gets that professional training and that businesses take advantage of those youth, and they make sure that those youth can actually see a way in the future. And so we're doing this through the digital media. And I just want to thank you guys. This is a little bit nervous, but thank you so much. And thank you.